Welcome to the second part of my conversation with Lisa Kheresh about her poetry collection, My Boyfriend is Audre Lorde. In this part, we discuss both references to political movements and the self-reflexivity of her poetry. If you're enjoying the conversation, please leave us a like and subscribe to the channel. Welcome back to my discussion with Lisa Kheresh. If you didn't catch the first part, I do suggest checking that out first. But in this part, we'll continue talking about a couple of more of her poems. And I wanted to start with one, I believe it's untitled, but the first line is Paluta Badunova writes letters to her lovers on puffy envelopes of square pizza. And without going into that particular image, the question I had for this poem was, it refers to anarchism and revolution. So you have these political movements in there, but these terms are quite often mixed in with small scale domestic images, although those images themselves are not always particularly homely or cozy. Would you say that poem is about a tension between the personal and the political? Is that where you were coming from with it?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think tension between the personal and the political is the sentence that can describe many of my poems. But regarding that, I think it would be great to explain who is Paluta Badunova. So she is a Belarusian politician. She was living in the beginning of the 20th century, and she was taking part in the building the new Belarusian nation. Yes, and it is from her public appearance, but also she had very complex love relationship with other Belarusian politician, and also while dealing with this kind of hard, complex emotions of heartbreak, she had written a book of memoirs. In Belarusian, it's called Uspominy, memories, resemblances, and sometimes it is described as a first modernist autobiography in Belarusian language. So I think she is a great example of this kind of processing both political themes and personal themes in one soul, and then in one diary on the pages of one book. Yes, and I think I was trying to give this kind of impression of small details that are still taking part in the big history, in big narrative. So for example, not to think about some politicians as this big, great people, but also paying attention to what they're eating for dinner and who is cooking this dinner for them, and to make everyone look more intimate, and maybe not so strong. To intentionally weaken them.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Let's move on to another poem. I Know I'm Not Ready. And this poem it seemed to me, and again, you could respond to my reading, it seems to figure poetry as a kind of repository that one has access to. I suppose a repository of language and idea and emotion. But in the poem, it seems to be a repository that's sort of almost too large and might always grow and expand more, particularly when translated poetry comes into the picture, becomes part of the repository, to use my image. It seems to be this is a very modern concern with the internet, just the sheer volume of information available. And of course, translations making more and more writing available to us that was originally in different languages. is this a problem in your poetry? And do you think this sort of the size of the amount of language, the amount of literature that's out there, is that something that your own poetry is aware of, do you think?
Yes, it's always hard to write these days because there are more writers than readers, like quantitatively. But as a cultural historian, I think that this is a good thing, because poetry, it could be treated as a therapeutic way of dealing with your emotions or with your impressions, and because of that, I think everyone should have an access to be involved in such activities, right? And I'm not trying to gatekeep any people from poetry or to make some poetry look more professional and some like amateur. Not that's not. I don't think that it's great. And yes, there are many poets and poems and languages, and I'm trying to make this world even like bigger for me by learning other languages. But when I'm thinking about that, I think that many young poets nowadays, they are anxious because of this like big volume of readings, because I think that every poet is also they has to be a good reader, yes, to know what has been done and what hasn't, so they would not repeat someone's steps if they're trying to be original. And I think that every poet is trying to be creative and original and to contribute to make something new. They should be aware of what was written before them. But and because of that, I think some anxiousness and worries could occur. But I think it's also important to face it as a time problem, a temporal problem. So we don't have time. We don't have enough time to read all of that. We don't have enough time to process all of that. And in this moment, I would try to say that the career of a poet, if you could use this word, is very long. It's almost as long as you can think. So if person lives, for example, for 80 years, the poetry career of this poet could be like 60 years. It's very long. It's longer than the career of any sportsman. It's longer than the career of any politician. So you have plenty of time to read all things that you consider useful for you. And this, and moreover, sometimes you're not ready to read and understand some poems, or you're not ready to understand them in this way that you would be able to understand it later. So you can read something at 30 and then at 50, and you will understand it differently. And this is the beautiful thing. And because of that, yeah, I think the problem that is also dealing with the contemporary relations to time and the sense that we should doing everything at once, be very successful in it, read all the time, but it's not sustainable. And even though it's important to poet to read, it's also important to have time away from reading, to just I don't know, to be able to look at the things, to be able to take a walk, to make the space to have new impressions that later they would be a material for poets and poems.
Yeah, what you're saying resonates. Well, firstly, yeah, the pressure of modern life and the sort of constant speed. I mainly work on contemporary fiction. And of course, if you're working on contemporary stuff, is always being published, and you can never keep up. But also, I read novels more than poetry, I have to confess. And the novel drives you forward, whereas to read poetry, when I received yours, actually, that was the first time I was reading poetry for a while. Because I've been teaching a lot of novels as well, and that sort of shift in gear to slow down was very welcome. But it took me a moment to slow down, and you get caught up in the pace of everything. Also appreciate what you said about different times of life, different pieces of writing mean different things. I think there have been times when I read something at first and it didn't make sense to me, and then 5-10 years later I get it, and other stuff maybe you grow out of a little bit as well. So the length of the career is a good point, an encouraging one, because you've all this time to go back and reflect on writing. Speaking of reflecting, I'd another question about you talked about sort of being aware of poets sort of outside, but I felt your poetry is also, it looks inside, it's quite self-reflexive. Would you agree with that? Do you think it's possible to write an intelligent poem these days that isn't in some way self-reflexive?
So I think that when poet is working on their poetry, it is already a work of reflection. Maybe not like reflection of personal experience or personal traits, but first of all, it's a reflection of language, because you are using words not in an order and in a way that it is, I would not say supposed to, but in a way that it is not used in like everyday conversation. Yeah, so you are making things up, you are making lines of words that maybe they were not be written in this order. These words were not like in close proximity to other words, so you are using words from different style registers and all of that. So it's already a reflexive work. And maybe for some people it's okay to stop there. So like I'm a language poet, yeah. And another very influential school for modern contemporary young Russian poets is like language school. So Lin Khirjinyan, Rachel Blau-Duplessis, Barrett Watton, and other people that they were writing about the language like all the time, and also about the political implication in the language, right? Yes, some could stop here, but I'm not stopping here, because as I've already said, it's very important to be precise with words when you're trying to say something about history, about life. And it's also important to have this balance between sound universal and speaking from your personal experience, right? Because I think that like a good poem would be trying to achieve both of these goals. So it should sound not for statement for everyone, but also statement that is bigger than just your like notes in diary, right? Because poetry also exists like in social media, in like bigger network of people that were reading and corresponding to it. But also to be very precise with your own feelings and your own experience, your own relations to something. So it should meet like in the middle between universality, as such thing exists. We know that many scholars and philosophers were disagreeing with it, and I think partly they're right. And between your experience, and only you can say how precise is it, how were you successful by expressing it. So there are two judges, right? Like a world and yourself, and you're discussing it, compromising it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, very insightful, interesting answers. Thanks. Wanted to, as a last question, want to ask about your title. My boyfriend is Audre Lorde. Just a showstopper of a title. Do you want to say anything about where that came from?
So there is a group, the music band in Russia that is called Lyman's Formation, Formaция Limon. And it is a group from St. Petersburg. They're playing also with the team of contemporary culture, politics, and all of that. And I would say that I don't agree with them on every stance. I think that sometimes they're like playing with political figures that I dislike, and I think it's not okay to play with. But after all, they have this song that is called "My Girlfriend is Michelle Ulbeck." So, and it's a funny song about like a personal experience that like the lyrical subject has his girlfriend, and turns out she's Michelle Ulbeck, and she's this like right-wing conservative French writer, and because of that she's like very xenophobic to him and to other people. She is trying to kick him out of the house because she has to write her next great novel, and it's funny, like the sentences that are repeated, like "My girlfriend is Michelle Ulbeck." I don't know how that has happened, and I don't know how to get through it. And I was thinking about like changing both parts of the sentence. So not my girlfriend, but my boyfriend, and not some like right-wing conservative, but on the contrary, like the very like leftist, critical thinker, feminist Audre Lorde. That and I really like her. I like her writings. I think it's very insightful, and also about the. I think that the poem "To All the Boys" is inspired also from her writings, because she was also writing how to make this kind of allyship, how to find like this position between your differences and your intentions to make world safer for everyone. Yes, and I was also thinking that it would be great to think about that my partner is someone that could be mythologized as this like very important figure that is always right, that is always correct, and she's so precise with everything. And because of that, it's some kind of like worries that she could see that I'm doing something wrong, that I'm not being very aware of something. So this is also like a joke, also a game with words and with cultural opposition. But yeah, I thought that it would be fun to name a book like that.
And we look forward to the book coming out. So it's going to be published this year soon?
Yeah, I hope so.
Good, good. Well, we will link to it in the show notes once it is out, and hopefully people can get their hands on it.
Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your answers. Please do join us, everybody, in part 3, where Lisa will give her recommendations for further reading. So hope to see you then.